Welcome back to the Empire Sports of Mind podcast. New intro for us, but same old Jets. Jets lose a heartbreaker to the Falcons. We're going to talk. We have a Yankees hot stove. We made a list of our favorite New York sports moments in recent memory. And as usual, we have our NFL picks. John, let's get started with the Jets.
You're right. Same old Jets. They lose to the Falcons that was probably the worst football game I've watched. And there's been a lot of bad games this year, but that is on top of the list. That was a really bad game. Tim Boyle missed Garrett Wilson maybe 5 times for an open touchdown. They bring in Trevor Siemian in the fourth quarter. That doesn't prove to do anything. The offense still looks inept. Offensive line I thought was not a problem. They were giving the quarterback a solid amount of time all game. Maybe not in the running game a little bit, but passing, I think they had enough protection. It's the same old. I mean, they have tried everything. They benched Zach Wilson, did not work. And it's just the running game stinks as always because they can't get leads. You're not going to have a good running game if you don't have leads, and the teams are sacking the box and they don't trust your quarterback. So that's always going to be an issue. And honestly, at this point, this game probably wasn't on Hackett. I thought he schemed guys open. Probably the best all year. I mean, the guys were open, but the quarterback just stinks. I mean, Tim Boyle, we said him at that. I mean, come on, this guy in college had a touchdown to interception ratio of 15-30. Like, how do you expect this guy to be successful?
1 to 13. 1 to 13.
I don't understand how you expect this guy to be successful in the NFL. I don't know, how does he have a job? There's not a better quarterback that was in college that had better stats than him that could be a backup. Like, I just don't get that one bit. But look, defense phenomenal this game as always. It's just they're wasting defensive performance after defensive performance after defensive performance. It's really bad. Bright side is Jermaine Johnson looks like a stud. Davis looks like a stud. He's been playing great, and they just released Amos this week, and then Davis has stepped in. He's really good. So a lot of bright spots on defense, but the offense is the same old.
Yeah. No, first, I'll start with a little bit of concession. I said, why don't you throw Trevor Siemian out there and see what he's got? And I guess the Jets were kind of right in that regard. No, didn't look like a professional quarterback out there. Total statue, couldn't move. No ball security. Was not any better than Tim Boyle. So, a ton of problems offensively. And I think this is such a typical like Jets game to score 8 points, 2 field goals, 1 safety. It's like kind of representative of how the year's gone and give up 13 points. I think it perfectly sums up, and that's why I said same old Jets. It perfectly sums up how this year's gone. And, on offense, it's hard to talk about many bright spots, but Xavier Gibson with, this anemic offense still did manage to have 77 yards. So, good on him. And, Dalvin Cook, who they said was going to, I know he had a costly fumble, but they said he was going to have increased touches. And he looked better. I mean, especially in the first half, he looked solid, like he was, getting those. What Saleh talked about is getting those like couple yards, like necessary yards you have to get as a running back. Did a solid job of that. And, similar thing for, they benched Lazard. Lazard comes back this game, looks no better. And, like you talked about, I thought Nathaniel Hackett did do a better job. There were a lot of, the all 22 and even the Twitter with the dots move. You're like, oh, this guy was open. This guy was open. So it was better in that regard, but obviously non-acceptable performance to score basically 6 offensive points.
Yeah, man. I mean, Dalvin Cook looked phenomenal there, and I think that one drive, the second drive they had of the game, he looked great. Got 8 yards. I think he averaged maybe 8 yards before that fumble. Like every run was at least 7-8 yards, and then he did a costly fumble, something that was a problem with him in Minnesota last year. He led the league in turnovers. So yeah. I mean, that's not a surprise that he did that. And then you have Xavier Gibson getting 77 yards. I mean, that was basically all those yards was on that one chunk play from Tim Boyle. I think it was like a 36 pass. I mean, still a good game for him, but just so disappointing to see Garrett Wilson with only 50 yards in this game, 3 receptions and 7 targets. This guy should get at least 15 targets a game. I do not care. He's the only guy that is consistently getting open. He's the only guy that could make people miss in space outside of Breece Hall in your offense. And you're only targeting him 7 times. That is that honestly, I wasn't blaming Hackett, but that has, and you probably blame the quarterback too, but Hackett, he has to scheme up plays specifically for Garrett Wilson, like screen passes, maybe even, honestly, Matthew, maybe even a, whatever you call it. What do you call when the running back snaps it? I lost that.
Wildcat.
Do a wildcat with Breece Hall, do a wildcat with Garrett Wilson even. I mean, can it get any worse? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, and Matthew, this week they might not have a quarterback starting from, so the Wildcat might be an option.
Yeah, I mean it's really bad. Rumors today. We'll talk about them a little later, but also no a factor in this game, just and a factor all season for the Jets. They have to be the least lucky team in football, the most unlucky team in football. Even in this game, kind of a microcosm of the whole season where Atlanta had two offensive fumbles. They were able to recover both Patterson and Ritter, and the Jets. Semien had a lost fumble. Dalvin Cook had a lost fumble. These fumbles were lost turnovers where they weren't for the Falcons. And there's been a couple games like this where it's like, oh, no, all the fumbles were recovered for this team, but lost for the Jets. I think it was the Broncos game, maybe that was like that. Or I don't know which game. But it's just been a very unlucky year for the Jets. Like you said, Jermaine Johnson looked really good on defense. And also another really good game for a good special teams unit in the Jets where Thomas Morstead, 3 inside 20-yard punts and no touchbacks. Been very good this year. And Greg Zorlin, 2 field goals. No, they weren't that long, and also good punt returns. There was a 20-yard punt return. So special teams, that's been something that's warrants some credit this year. It was solid.
And special teams, guess who came back this week? Justin Hardy, the gunner, and he came back from IR, so it was a huge difference maker. Like the past few weeks, they have struggled when he's been out with punt returns. I mean, they allowed that touchdown to the Chargers, and in all the other games, they allowed some big chunk punt return plays. So Justin Hardy getting back in your lineup is huge for the special teams. I mean, that guy's worth every single. And then Thomas is probably the Jets MVP up to this point. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say that your punter's the MVP, but it's the truth. I mean, this guy he's the only guy that shows up every game consistently. Thomas Morrison. I mean, can they sign him to like a 5-year extension? I don't even care if he's 40. Can they sign him until he's 50? Like this guy, who cares? Does punting, do you have to be that, young to punt? You could be 50 years old punting balls. I don't care. Sign him to a 5-year extension.
It's crazy. And this is through 12 games. And Thomas Morstead's been on the Saints. He was on the Jets in 2021. He's been in the NFL for a long time. And through 12 games, he's approaching his career high in punts. He's 3 punts away from reaching his career high in punts. So that really says a lot about the Jets offense. I also saw a stat back on the Jets offense. On first drives this year, 3 points. And I think that's how many times have we talked? The first drive of the game are the best opportunity to score points. First drives out of the half, first drives in the game, and they scored 3 total points. Totally unacceptable. And so that's overall. I know Nathaniel Hackett doesn't deserve much blame for this game, but overall, it's really indicative of Jets coaching, which is just and obviously personnel, but not acceptable.
Yeah, and then Matthew, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it gets worse today. Look, the Jets have lost their fifth straight game. You would think, okay, another defeat Monday. What's going to get? How can it get worse? It gets worse. A report comes out that says the Jets are leaning towards starting Zach Wilson as their quarterback this Sunday, and he is reluctant to play. I mean, this guy, that's unbelievable that he is reluctant to play. Are you kidding me? Who is he to say that? And I understand that. Look, he's not happy with the situation, but he did it to himself. And I know that I'm not saying he's the only issue on this offense. He's not. There's plenty of blame to be thrown at this offense. Hackett, wide receivers other than Wilson, offensive line has been really bad. I understand the injuries, but they still have been really bad. They haven't stepped up. But Zach Wilson, that's crazy. That just shows this locker room is lost from Roberts. I really that really shows me that he has lost this locker room. And look, it's hard to keep a solid voice there when you're 4-8 on a 5-game losing streak, but this is just not. And I was starting honestly, like this morning when I woke up, I was like, Saleh, you lose more faith in him every single week. Every single deflating Jets loss, you lose faith in him. And after this report, I don't have any confidence in him anymore. I really don't. And his answers to the media, we'll get to them in a second, but they are not promising as well because he basically confirmed these reports. Not straight up, but he essentially confirmed them.
Yeah. No, I mean, at this point, that's totally unacceptable to say, you're healthy, you're under contract, and you don't want to play. I mean, I don't know how to the extent, like to the total extent of which it's true. But if it's true, I think the Jets have to terminate his contract. And then you're off the hook for next year. Maybe you don't have to pay him. This guy didn't want to play. He's contracted to play. He's healthy, no excuses, and he doesn't want to play. So, look, that's totally unacceptable. And across the league, I just think no, you have to really look at what's going on with the Jets here because no, not only Zach Wilson, not only Tim Boyle, but also no, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, and Zach Wilson. All three of them combined have looked absolutely awful in under this Jets offense, and there are quarterbacks across the league that you thought were washed up. This guy's worse than Siemian. This guy's worse than Wilson. This guy's worse than Boyle. Joe Flacco, Josh Dobbs. The list goes on and on and on. These guys are able to fill in, and the offense looks fine. With Flacco, he had 2 passing touchdowns. When was the last time the Jets had 2 passing touchdowns all year? I mean, and Flacco was willingly let go. Flacco could have easily come back to the Jets and been a third string QB. He would have accepted that. And so it speaks volumes, I think, about coaching and personnel. It's a combination, but how is the quarterback play this terrible? It's worse than when the Giants had Mike Glennon and not Tommy DeVito, Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. It's worse than that, and it's unbelievable to say that.
Yeah, I know. When the Jets were, when Rodgers got hurt, there were some rumors that Flacco was interested in coming back. And you're saying to yourself, are you kidding me? This guy's not going to do anything. He's old. He looked uninterested in playing when he was with the Jets. He's a statue in the pocket. He can't move. But I got to be honest with you, man. I would kill to have Joe Flacco on this team right now. That's just it's sad, but I would kill to have him on this team. I mean, I'm not saying that. I mean, Joe Flacco, they just are 4-8. If they started him the whole year, maybe they have 5 or 6 wins, maybe an extra 2 wins with Joe Flacco. I'm not saying he's going to make a huge difference, or maybe an extra win or so. It's just, I don't get it. I mean, Tim Boyle, how was he an NFL level quarterback? Trevor Siemian. And now I get why the Jets didn't go to Trevor Siemian, because he probably has looked really bad in practice, and he looked really bad in the game. He made one good throw to, I believe it was Gibson.
Yeah, it was
a good throw. Mm-hmm. It was a good throw, but I kind of see now why the Jets didn't. I kind of see now why the Jets were waiting to the last minute to bench Zach Wilson, because their other options do not get any better. And Zach Wilson is probably your best quarterback on the roster. I mean, he's the worst quarterback in the league, but he's probably your best quarterback on your roster. I mean, that's how you can have good quarterback play if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. And not only Joe Flacco, but the Jets would kill to have Tommy DeVito. I mean,
they would.
It's crazy. And it's hard to really pinpoint whose fault it is, because you could look at I'm sure that all 3 quarterbacks are not good quarterbacks. I'm pretty positive of that. But there's also the aspect of coaching. At least one of them, if competent at all, should look okay in a good scheme that protects the quarterback and schemes up open players. They should look. So it's really hard to judge whose fault this is, but it just looks. It's just such a terrible situation, and there's no solution this week. And if you have Zach Wilson, 2 months ago was actually vying to earn that job, to earn a job next year, maybe somewhere else, maybe as a backup for the Jets. Now he's going to be playing uninterested. He's going to be worse than there's no doubt in my mind. You think Zach Wilson's going to come back and play better? I mean, so there's no good answers. The rest of the year, you're just going to have to ride it out. And, maybe Aaron Rodgers comes back, but he said the Jets, being in playoff contention has to be a factor. And with this loss to the Falcons, I would say the Jets are, eliminated 100%. There's no even anymore. So, don't expect to see Aaron Rodgers then. And are you really going to go into next year? You have to make moves at quarterback in the offseason to prevent this from happening again, because it's a total waste of a season, this being what it is.
Man, I mean, there were quarterbacks out there. Gardner Minshew has looked solid. The Colts are 7-4 now with Gardner Minshew?
Like a top 10 quarterback, in passer rating.
He's been great this year. The Jets, I mean, if he was on the Jets, I mean, they would kill for him. Gardner Minshew. You had, Tyrod Taylor would have been a good backup choice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Joe Flacco, Mike White, they should have kept, honestly, because he was familiar with the team. I just don't understand why they went into the year with Zach Wilson. And this is all on the Jets. This is all on Joe Douglas. And this situation with Zach Wilson, I blame on Zach Wilson mainly, because that's kind of just come on, he's done nothing in this league to deserve the choice to if he wants to play or not, because his feelings are hurt. I mean, because Zach, you've proved nothing in this league. No. You have proved that you're probably the worst quarterback. You can't read a freaking defense. And you're saying, I don't want to play. You hurt my feelings. Give me a break. And I think there was a follow-up report saying that he's worried about his risking an injury for no reason. Come on, man. Are you even going to freaking play in the NFL next year? I don't even think a team would sign him for a backup. I think he would be on a practice squad next year.
He must be worried about the XFL USFL merger.
Yeah, he's probably worried about the X. I mean, come on now. This is I mean, you do not warrant that amount of respect. I mean, I don't feel bad for him one bit. I really don't. Look, the Jets, have they screwed him over a little bit? Yes. But is it mainly on Zach Wilson? Also, yes. And this is also on Joe Douglas for continuing to trot out Zach Wilson. I mean, Matthew, I go to the situation in San Francisco. You had Brock Purdy. They took him with the last pick in the draft. They also took Trey Lance with the fourth pick in the draft. And they moved on for Trey Lance very quickly. They could have easily, forced Trey Lance out there with Brock Purdy remaining on the bench, but they knew Brock Purdy looked better, and they kept him out there. Not, and they didn't put Lance out there because of his draft position. That is a sign of a good organization. The Jets, Zach Wilson looked horrible last year, had him as the backup this year because of his draft position. That's a sign of a bad organization. So this is also on the front office.
Yeah, if you told me, I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter who you make with the picks, as long as it happens eventually. Like you have a franchise quarterback, you have a running back, no wide receiver, and you still have assets, which the 49ers do. So if you told the Jets or the 49ers that it would cost, for the 49ers, ultimately the third overall pick and the last pick in the draft to get a franchise quarterback, everyone, you would take that. It doesn't matter who it is, if it's the third overall pick or the last. Ultimately, I think Brock Purdy's been the best quarterback in the league this year, according to rating and touchdown. I mean, he has a great team around him. Nobody's denying that, but he's smart with the ball. I mean, he does some things well. So ultimately, you have to be willing to move on. And I'm not saying the Jets have been totally unwilling to move on because in Zach Wilson's year 2, they did bench him for Chris Streveler for whatever it's worth. Like in his year 2, maybe he deserved to still be playing or to see what you had. And the season at that point was. It wasn't over, but it wasn't looking good, and it wasn't going to be solved with Chris Streveler. So ultimately, the Jets have shown willingness to move on and try to make adjustments. But if you know that moving on might be a possibility, which it has been in 2 consecutive years with Zach Wilson, you have to plan for that situation and sign a backup as soon as Aaron Rodgers goes down or before the season, knowing that if Zach Wilson goes in there, we actually still have to have a third string option. And the Jets did not do that. It's been a big mistake, and right, like you said, it falls on the GM. But this is more than just a small mistake. This is you totally wasted a season because of this drama.
Matthew, Joe Douglas is 24-48 as a Jets GM. Robert Saleh is 15-31 as a Jets head coach. Now, I mean, there comes to a point where we mentioned this. It's a repeat show of last time, but I just want to say it again. I mean, if these guys lose out, how do you bring them back? I mean, I understand the uniqueness of this situation. You want stability with Rodgers coming back and a limited window with him. But at this point, I'm questioning, do I even if Rodgers is not going to come back, is only going to come back if these coaches come back, do you even want that? Because you're going to be in a position now where you're probably picking 3rd overall. I mean, you're going to pass up on a franchise quarterback to appease Rodgers and keep Saleh and Hackett? I mean, is that even going to – it's not even a guarantee it works out next year. It's not even a guarantee you make the playoffs with those guys because of how bad they've been this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm at a point now where, if Rodgers is not going to accept – if the Jets want some change and Rodgers says no, I would let him go. I seriously would. Because of the position you're in now, you're probably going to be picking 3rd overall, Matthew. They're going to lose out. They're not winning a game for the rest of this year because they can't score a touchdown. They are going to lose out and be in a position to draft a guy like Jaden Daniels, a guy like Drake May potentially, a guy like that guy from Washington, Penix. So they are going to be in position to draft a franchise quarterback. Do you pass that up and draft maybe a guy like Marvin Harrison? But I don't know. What do you do? It's such a weird. They're in a weird spot here. It's all going to dictate whether they, make changes. I don't know. Yeah. It's such a weird off season.
I think you're right. It speaks too much about Rodgers. If he's unwilling to come back, if these coaches don't return. But the fact of the matter is, if they finish 4-13, there's just because it doesn't matter because if at the beginning of the year I said they were going to go 4-13, you would have went crazy. And even if after week 1-0, if I said they were going to finish 4-13, you still would have gone crazy. And that was with Rodgers already hurt. So that has to fall because the personnel on defense has been solid, and there are the quarterback has obviously been a huge issue, but there are still players on offense like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, who they signed, Allen Lazard, big signing. There are still pieces there that were at least supposed to contribute. So at some point, it does have to fall on coaching and player personnel, obviously, as the GM. So I don't know when that line is drawn. But if you finish 4-13, I don't think you can bring back Salah and Douglas. I think you have to turn
Matthew,
the page. I think you have to, bringing back Rodgers or not. I think ultimately, I think you do. You should try to bring him back. But look at
yeah,
Jordan Love. Jordan Love played outstanding against the Chiefs, sitting behind Rodgers for 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. So even if you bring back Rodgers, I don't think that should deter you from, if you're third overall, from picking a quarterback. If you think that the quarterback is the best available at the spot, and you know that you do need a quarterback for the future.
that's a good point, Matthew. And going back to the GM and coach. Now I'm at a point now where and I'm a big believer in, if you fire the head coach, you also fire the GM, right? But at this uniqueness of the situation, Joe Douglas, his case is not great for saying, but if you want some stability to keep Rodgers from leaving, maybe you fire Salah and bring in a guy like Harbaugh, who Rodgers he wouldn't want to play for him. I understand that he's a hard-nosed guy, but he's a guy who knows how to win. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
if you bring him over, Rodgers would play, and that's a change that would help your team in the immediate. I don't think he's a guy where I feel like if you start over at GM and head coach, you might as well start over at quarterback. Like, what's the point of bringing back Rodgers if you're going to do that?
I think you could
no stability.
I think you could still draft a quarterback and keep Rodgers. I think that's like a good look at Rodgers sat behind Favre, Love sat behind Rodgers.
Yes,
it's a strategy that nobody does in the NFL. So there's not a lot of precedent for whether it works or not. But in the small sample size, it seems like it does work with Rodgers and this kind of tree.
Yeah, it's just tough because if you keep Rodgers and you draft a quarterback, how do you sell to him that we're going all in for you? Like, how do you? Because you can arguably say if you're drafting 4, you draft Marvin Harrison, who could help you in the immediate and can help you win the Super Bowl with Rodgers. So how do you sell to him that you're like? It's just such a tough and it's a tricky situation. I think if you draft a quarterback, I don't think Rodgers is going to be here.
Focusing on what Rodgers wants and just focus on the team.
Yeah, I understand, but also I think that I think you have to draft non-quarterback if he's here, and maybe you draft a quarterback in the third round. I'm talking about drafting quarterback in the first round. Maybe you don't do it then because you want to help your team in the immediate. You want to go for the Super Bowl with Rodgers, and going for a Super Bowl with like a pick with third overall, like Marvin Harrison will help there more than like a quarterback in the immediate to help you go all in with him. But I think a developmental quarterback in the third or fourth round, that makes a ton of sense. That makes a really, because Jordan Love was a second round pick.
That's the minimum.
And you're right, Jordan Love, Matthew, if you watch Jordan Love play, his throwing motions are the same as Rodgers. It's like you're watching Rodgers 2.0. Mm-hmm. It really is. The same hard count, the same flick of the wrist. It's the same everything. And that goes to show that he mentored him and he taught him to be a pretty good. It's early, but it looks like he's a pretty darn good quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
He's going to have a long time.
Yeah, no, I think that's the minimum. And whether bringing Harbaugh in, I just think that if you get a new coach and not a new GM, you're stuck with Douglas for another 3 years, no matter what. Because then you can't be constantly off cycle. You can be off cycle once, where give the GM 2 choices, but then that's it. Then Douglas 3 more years, no matter what. So I'm not sure if that's the right move. I think ultimately what we're going to end up seeing is we're going to see Robert Saleh get another year. I just think that's the bottom line, and Joe Douglas get another year by extension. But next year there can be no doubt in anyone's mind. It's playoffs or get out of here.
Yeah, they're going to be on the hot seat from week 1 and on. Right. If they don't, it has to be a playoff mandate. If you don't make the play, it's over. They're going to feel the heat. And Joe Douglas with Matthew, you said it last week. Giants are always open, and then they always have press conferences for the GM. Where's Joe Douglas? Is he in his basement eating pizzas? Like, where is he? Let's go. Let's talk to the media. Because right now it's a really bad look what's going on with the team. It's spiraling out of control every single week. Can you talk to us and give us a spiral, some sort of confidence? I want him to address me. I understand it's not mandatory for him to do so, but I feel like it would be a good look if he does, to take some hard questions and give take some fall as well. Take some fall for it, man.
Yeah.
Like, where are you? Where is Joe Douglas right now? And it's such a shame because Robert Saleh, yes, he's been a bad coach, but this is not all his fault. And he takes questions every day from the media, so that's not fair to him as well. He's taking questions that are probably meant to be directed at Joe Douglas. He's taking those questions and taking the heat for it. That's not fair as well. So I want Joe Douglas to address the media pretty soon. This is getting very frustrating.
Yeah. All right. That sums it up on the Jets. Let's move on to our favorite New York sports moments first.
Oh, yeah. And so that's a fun topic.
No, it's a fun topic. We've done drafts in the past, our favorite players, and those have been popular. So we're gonna make a list of our top 5, our favorite, not the definite best, but our favorite New York sports moments in recent memory. So, John, why don't you start with your number 5 pick?
Number 5, Matthew. We can't get off the topic of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
Oh my goodness, no!
My 5th favorite New York sport moment, and it's sad because it's not in the game. It was him on the Pat McAfee show. That whole day when Pat McAfee announced it on Twitter, I was just the most excited guy. I couldn't wait for that moment. I woke up that day so giddy, and I watched that show. And Matthew, I got to be honest with you, when he announced he was playing for the Jets, and you know what, I'll play right now, and then I'll talk about it.
And then it was, how is my body feeling? Is it going to be able to hold up? So at this point, as I sit here, I think since Friday, I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Okay.
And I haven't been holding anything up at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew, when he said those words, I mean, I'm not lying to you. There was tears in my eyes. I mean, because I've never seen a quarterback for my team. And when he said that, I was just, thinking of all the scenarios, Super Bowl, how that would be, just him playing in a game overall. Like, I was so excited. And this, I know, I understand that, the rest of these moments are actually like stuff that has happened on the field, but it's a cool off the field moment. Like, this is one of the best moments of my sports fandom. And I understand that he hasn't played a full game yet, but that was a special moment for me. It really was.
Yeah. So my 5 is the Giants winning a playoff game. Now, this was a tough one for me because I want to include something with the Giants, but the 2012 Super Bowl and the obviously Super Bowl before that. Now, I vaguely remember. I wasn't really interested. I don't really remember it. Yeah. So it's really hard for me to put my favorite New York sports moments with something I barely remember and something I barely cared about at the time. So I want to get Giants win in there, but the Giants winning a playoff game for the first time, basically since then, being in the playoff game for the first time since 2016, I think, first of all, trumps your Jets moment because the Jets have not been in the playoffs since, like you mentioned, we mentioned a lot, since you were in first grade. The Giants winning a playoff game and then playing a second playoff game was very fun last year. We don't have a video for it because they won a playoff game, but it was exciting for me.
Matthew, I remember the podcast after they won that game. You had a whole speech that the Giants were back. How's that turned out? How's that turned out for you, Matthew? How's that? Are they back? No, I mean, okay. But it was a very, it was a great story because the Giants going into the year, they were in the rebuild. They're still in the rebuild now, but they were in the rebuild last year, the start of it. And they go on, and what was their record? 9-7-1.
9-7-1.
9-7-1, and they go on to and they win a playoff game against the Vikings, who were, I believe, had 13 wins.
Yeah.
On the road. So that was a special moment for the Giants. And you have your coach. I think after that game, you knew you were assured that you had a great coach. You had the right people in charge in the front office. So that was a big moment for the Giants. And I think that they're only going to build on that moment. I really believe so. I know it's been a bad year this year, but that gives you hope as a Giants fan, that moment.
Yeah. Let's move on to number 4. We both shared this one. We picked the same one for number 4. It's the DJ LeMahieu game-tying home run at Houston, Game 6, 2019. Me and John were actually watching this game in the same room together. Yeah. And let's play the video first.
Play it.
3-2 pitch. Fly ball into right. Back at the wall. This ball is gone for a home run. And this game is tied.
Yeah, what a moment. Honestly, when this was happening live, I thought George Springer caught that ball. But obviously a crazy moment. The Yankees would have been eliminated otherwise. They lost this game anyway to be eliminated on a home run we don't really want to talk about. But, John, what do you think about this?
Matthew, I think we woke up the neighbors when that home run happened. I mean, I was just pure I thought we all thought the game was over. They had their closer in their whatever his name was. Who was it?
Ozuna or Presley?
I think it was Ozuna. So, I mean, he was dominant that year, so we all thought it was over. And DJ LeMahieu hits it opposite field to a ball that I also thought George Springer robbed that home run. And once you knew it was out, I mean, it was just pure late. I mean, it was incredible. And it sucks. It's kind of a weird moment because you have that moment. You're so happy. You think the Yankees are good. I think after that moment, I thought they were making the World Series. I really had that belief in my head. They're going to win this game. They're going to win Game 7 and go on to the World Series. But we all know what happened 20 minutes later. It all ended. All that happiness, all that joy ended after like 20 minutes after that. It's such a weird, but it's still a special moment. It still like holds true in my heart. I still, that's a fond memory that I have of that moment. That was something special.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a great game. It was a great series. My honorable mention, what would have been my 6th place, also comes from that series. The Aaron Hicks foul pole Game 5 against Justin Verlander home run in the first inning. It was at home. I think there's something obviously that takes away. If this moment happened at Yankee Stadium, I think it jumps up 2 spots. It would have just been.
Totally it did. Didn't it happen at Yankee Stadium?
No, the Aaron Hicks one did, but I'm talking about.
You're talking about DJ. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, I mean, the Aaron Hicks one compared to the DJ LeMahieu one seems so unimportant given the circumstance, but it was like memorable because it was at Yankee Stadium, hit the foul pole. Obviously the crowd goes crazy, but a great moment and ruined 20 minutes later. So, yeah.
Matthew, I'll play my number 4 right now.
Penguins bring it in again. Heinen back from Marino. Lost it at the line. 2-on-1 New York. Zibanejad across. Prater scores! And the Gardens going now.
Yeah, that was, I mean, Matthew, we were both in the building for that goal. And that was the first goal that I was at the Garden. I've been to a lot of special playoff moments. That was the first goal that I witnessed. I couldn't hear the goal horn after he scored that goal. I couldn't. I literally couldn't hear it. It was just, it's in my head that I couldn't. I'm getting emotional. So it was such a special, and I understand that it only made it 1-0, and you had the Panarin overtime goal that we're going to get into soon. Spoiler alert. But that goal was just something about that goal. Just it lifted the roof of that building. That goal when he scored that, you knew the Rangers were going to win that game. I know they were down in that game after that, but you just had a. It's just like you had a sense that they were going to win that game after that goal. It was just such a special moment. Kreider, like the guy who scored 50 goals in that year, he does it, scores to make it 1-0. And after a couple great Igor saves, I believe, so the crowd was rocking from that. They get that 2-on-1 chance, and it erupted. As I said, the roof felt like it lifted from the building. It was crazy that moment, Matthew. I know you could speak for that as well.
I mean, it was such a memorable series too. Even if you compare it to the same year, winning the second round, arguably more important against the Hurricanes. The first round just felt so much more. So many moments. Even factoring. Obviously being down 3-1, the crucial hit to Sidney Crosby by Jacob Trouba that whether you like it or not did turn around the series. Not having Crosby, their captain, affected them. The Game 6 goal. Louis Domingue in goal, that kind of one that bounced in Game 6 for the Rangers to win and push it to Game 7. That this first goal and then obviously the Panarin goal. So a lot of crazy moments, a lot of from this series, a great series. And this goal, I think it's overshadowed obviously by the Panarin goal, but any goal in the playoffs, the Game 7 atmosphere at Madison Square Garden, it just doesn't get any better than that. So it was that game actually, a lot of moments specifically from that game as well. The Mika Zibanejad goal, the Pittsburgh Penguins also scored a goal. It was kind of waved off, no goal in the moment.
They beat the horn, yeah.
They were making a loud buzzer sound to that it went in, so to stop play and go back to that time on the clock. So a lot of moments from that game, but obviously that's a great moment. So I'll move on to tying in right into that game. My number 3 moment is the Panarin overtime goal. John chose his specific that was the neutral. Was that the Penguins or the neutral?
That was the CSN, the Canadian Sports Network. That guy's a phenomenal announcer. Yeah, I know St. Rosen, obviously a legend in New York, but I just chose that one because the way he said the Garden's going now, like that was it added to that.
Sometimes there's something about being not biased, but
yes,
mine is. I think the call for this one is a good one by Sam Rosen. So let's play now.
Now Panarin moves in. He shoots. He scores! He scores! Rangers win!
Yeah, even if you factor that in, I think I've never been at the Garden where the Rangers score a goal and I'm screaming the goal horn as loud as I can and I'm jumping up and down. This one really stands out to me as like my just pure elation, and I'm thinking there's so many thoughts going through my mind. And Panarin, who had really had a bad series at that point and kind of continued to spiral in the playoffs, that year and obviously last year. But just a great moment, and kind of Panarin's like legacy in New York for all the playoff struggles he's had. He does have that goal.
Matthew, that goal was special. I mean, I remember. I think I was jumping up and down, and I think I stepped on when I landed, I stepped on the guy's foot that was sitting next to me, and he didn't even care. I mean, he didn't even care. I could have broke that guy's ankle for all that matter. Like no one, everyone was just jumping up and down. And you're right. Like I don't know. Like I remember the exact, and you couldn't even see the puck go in. It was such a weird goal. Like a man in front. It wasn't really like a slap shot. You didn't even think he was going to put it on the net. He puts it on the net, and you just heard the first thing you hear is the eruption, and it was amazing from there. I mean nothing beats being at a Game 7 and seeing the home team score the game-winning goal to win the series. Nothing beats that. I don't think that anything beats that in sports. It doesn't. Like that is just, you're never going to get a more electric moment from that in sports. Like,
and the Rangers, and the Rangers, for what it's worth, have had a lot of really cool Game 7 moments too. Game 7 goals, even just overtime playoff goals. And I've been fortunate enough to be in the building for some of them. There's nothing better. There's nothing. The crowd. In the regular season, a lot of people aren't invested, but everyone. You can hear a pin drop even right before, and Panarin has the opportunity to shoot it. Silence, and then you probably have a headache the day after because of how loud it was, the goal. But I guess it kind of ties into your next pick. So why don't you make your next pick?
Yep, guess what, Matthew? Another.
Came back to Yandel. Drive by Girardi and a save. Rebound. Score! Step on in overtime. The Rangers move on to Tampa.
Yeah, what a great moment too, and it feels like this always happens to the same teams against the Rangers. There's always the Capitals, always the Penguins, always getting the better of the Rangers, the Lightning, and always kind of adding always Holtby, who's the goalie here.
Holtby, oh my God.
No, it was that's obviously a great goal, and it was a good year.
It was a good year, yeah, because it was 2015 that goal, so it was the year after they made the finals, and the expectations were high. I mean, they were high, and they get it, to Tampa the next series. They get it to Game 7. I think Matthew, were you in the building for that Game 7 against Tampa? They lose 2-0. I mean, it was 1-0 all game. Was it? No, was it 1? They scored an empty net 2-0. That was probably one of the worst games I've been to.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just the excitement. We're gonna make another final, and they don't even score a goal. I mean, you don't even get any moment. You don't get one goal. I mean, that was just disappointment. But that step on overtime goal was another one where you're jumping up and down. You just made it to the Eastern Conference Final against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's just like, oh my God, nothing beats it. I mean, there's not really much more to be said. Nothing beats it. That's why it's our favorite moments. I mean, they're insane, and hopefully many more to come, Matthew. And hopefully one of those goals is in the Stanley Cup Final because we were.
Yeah, we got to see that. And there was no doubt in my mind. 2015 felt like the year. It really did, because you were coming off. The window was still open, and you basically thrived all regular season. That's the year they won the President's Trophy, right? And so expectations were through the roof. Obviously, you get through tough series against the Capitals, and is it Penguins also?
The first round. They beat the Penguins, yes.
Yeah.
In 5. Hagelin scored the game 5 winner there.
Yeah.
Time.
Right.
Yep.
But those are tough teams, tough series. Obviously, a lot of good players on both sides. And then the Lightning, and I don't know, it just felt like they were going to win that series, and they didn't. And obviously, it kind of boiled down to what was the problem kind of in all of these big losses: lack of scoring, and even like 1-0 losses, 2 overtime losses. They couldn't score in 2 overtimes. Obviously against the Kings, and Lundqvist playing on his head. But we won't really get into it. But I don't know that really 2014. Happy to be there. Happy to be in the on the finals. It's like the Knicks last year. Happy to be in the playoffs, happy to win around.
Yeah.
But this year, hopefully there are higher expectations. So once you make the finals, now it's about winning it. So I don't know if that one really.
Yes, you're right.
2015. I felt like that should have been the year.
Yeah, it should have been. And that was the last year of the window.
Then it really closed. Ottawa terrible losses after that.
Yeah. All right, Matthew, let's go to what's your number 2?
Yep, my number 2 is Aaron Judge's 62nd home run last year, and this is one of the moments where I don't know. No, it doesn't relate to winning a World Series or winning a Stanley Cup, winning NBA championship or a Super Bowl, but it's just something that you won't see. No, it's unlikely that you may see it again, like in your lifetime. It's something that just happens so rare. It's such a rare feat that it really made it special, and obviously such a tremendous personal accomplishment. So let's play it.
High fly ball, deep left. There it goes, soaring into history. He's done it. He has done it. 62. Aaron Judge is the American League single-season home run leader. The AL King. Case closed.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever? It was an away game. And have you ever heard a crowd go so bonkers for an away player? And I think obviously the moment would have been even more special than it already was had it have been at home. But never do you see, your team gives up a home run. Stand up, cheer as loud as you can, clap, round of applause after he hits it. So that's when that something great has happened, which obviously happened.
And Matthew, underrated moment of that video, the guy diving for the ball out of the stands. Do you remember that guy literally lunged out for the ball? That was crazy.
I don't think he got it, though, that guy.
He did get it. It ended up in the stands, but he went lunging for it. I mean, look, it's a good effort, right? I mean, if it does land, you get it, right? And it's worth that ball.
That was a big story. Remember who got the game ball? That guy wasn't going to sell it. That.
Oh yeah, what happened with that? Did he?
I don't know, but the guy put it on an auction and he didn't get what he wanted for it, so he kept it. And MLB.
I mean, look, honestly, that will bring us into this. Like, if Matthew, if you caught a ball like that, I would not give it up so easily. I wouldn't. I mean, look how much the Yankees are worth. They could help you out a little bit. And look, maybe it's a charity of your choice. But honestly, I'm being greedy. I don't care. That opportunity does not come. That opportunity only comes once in your life. I am being greedy. I do not care what people think of me. And I will demand a lot for that ball. I don't care. They're worth billions of dollars to organization. They could pay up for it.
Yeah. No, I'm making them pay up as well. I don't disagree with that. But my intention in the back of my head is to ultimately give up that ball.
Yes, absolutely.
Whatever their best offer is what I'll eventually take. I'll negotiate. Nope, I'm just going to keep the ball. Nope, this is the final offer. Okay, here you go. Ultimately, my intention is to give it back to the person who hit it.
And I think the key is if you get it, keep it that night and decide what you want to do with it. I would keep it that one night and let negotiations go on. I would not give it up in the moment. You're going to take a really bad offer in the stadium. They're going to give you a really bad offer. Like, you'll meet him after the game and you'll get a signed bat. F that. I'm not. That's nothing. I want more than that. I would say I'm taking it home.
Yeah, no, I would take it. I would definitely think it over. No, but ultimately, I don't know what happened with the ball, but that was a big story. So yeah, let's move on to your number 1, another baseball thing, and then I'll go do mine.
And the pitch rocked to right field. Tie game.
John, I've liked a lot of your picks, and honestly, I'm going to have to disagree with this one a little bit just because it was a wild card game. I know the crowd went crazy. It was a great moment. It was the first inning, though. Ultimately, the Yankees put a lot of runs on the board. And, I mean, I don't know. You were in person, so it has a little more. Yeah, I was not in person, so it's a little more for you. But I disagree.
I mean, look. You're right. I think because if I wasn't at that game, it wouldn't probably be as high. But since I was at the game, Matthew, that was probably the loudest I heard a crowd. I mean, look, we talk about the Rangers game 7, but there's only 18,000 people in that building, so it only gets to a certain noise level. Yankee Stadium's 55,000, actually 60 probably in the playoffs because they have standing room. So 60,000 people going nuts. That was the loudest I've ever heard a stadium get. I thought the stadium was going to collapse. I really did. And my dad was at the game with me. He's been to many games at the old stadium. And many, key moments, and people have always said the old stadium It's nothing like the old stadium. The new stadium has not got as loud as that. He told me that was very, very close. That was probably like the loudest he's ever heard a stadium as well, including the new old stadium. So just because of that, the fact of that, I mean, that was because like the Yankees, that Severino started that game. He came out of the game after recording 1 out in the first inning. I believe Polanco got a home run down the line. Another guy got a home run. I think Rosario got a home run. They were down 3-0. They took him out of the game a short leash. And then you're kind of losing faith because it's a wild card game, 1 game elimination. And you're like, oh, shit, the playoffs might be over after 1 inning. And then Didi just restores faith. I mean, that was just an incredible. And Didi was probably one of my favorite, like, modern-day Yankee. Like, he was just such a great Yankee. I mean, just a great guy. Came up big in the playoffs. Matthew, I remember I think in Cleveland, Game 5, he had 2 home runs off Kluber. So he came out, he was clutch in the playoffs. And you know what, Matthew? I understand that. I probably could have picked a couple other things at number 1, but for me, this one just holds true. It just holds on for me. I don't know. This moment is really special.
Ultimately, the prompt is your favorite New York sports moment, so it's hard to really debate with what's your favorite. You know, you were there. I mean, ultimately, it was an important moment. It's not like ultimate in the grand scheme of things. It's more important than the Aaron Judge 60-second home run, just because it actually like mattered, for the playoffs and stuff. But it also ended up being it was a good year as well. So I mean, ultimately didn't get to the World Series, but it was a fun year with a young group of guys, and we thought it was the baby bomb, the new era, and new window, championship window. But
Matthew, that's the closest they've gotten to World Series.
Yeah,
Game 7. They've never gotten 1 game close, only 2 in Game 6. So that's the closest they've gotten. That's how, like, you're right, baby bombers. That was the start of a new era. We were so excited; they weren't expected to go far,
that
was a fun year. That was a fun year. I don't think a year has topped 2017 since.
No, they definitely have not. They have in the regular season a couple 100-win years, but it's not come close.
Yeah.
And even 2019, that felt like even in the moment, that felt like the window. And then after 2020, it really plateaus. Those years, 2017, 2018, 2019, that was the window. They missed it. They failed. Since 2020, hasn't been the same. ALDS loss, wild card loss. Went back to the ALCS, got swept, and then didn't make the playoffs this year. So, not where they want to be right now. But let's move on. My number 1 pick, the Martin St. Louis overtime goal, Eastern Conference Finals, which practically propelled them to the finals.
Touches one along but can't get out with it. Follow up from Markov. Very careful trying to play it a second time. Can't do it. Here's St. Louis moving in.
Wow. Well, I mean, this was – I think it's you. Maybe you could tell – you were planning on telling this, but I think you said you saw him from like – he was open from like 10 seconds. He was like 3-4 seconds before it happened, and you could just sense it was just such a cool moment. And I remember distinctly being there. The Rangers win the final, the Lundqvist twirling save. I think those are all kind of like 3 moments tied in one, all at home against the Canadiens in that series. Really great moments. And you have the fans so excited. The staircase, not being able to move down the staircase. We want the cup chants.
Oh my God!
Really electric atmosphere. And I think this, I just think it's the best moment, just because I think the impact it has on Stanley Cup, World Series, the championship, the playoffs matters. And this to me had the greatest impact on the Rangers or the Knicks or the Yankees or the Giants, the impact towards winning the playoffs, winning the Stanley Cup than any other moment I've seen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Matthew, that will lead into my honorable mention. I just thought of actually that's been one of my favorite New York sports moments. Kind of an emotional one. Marty St. Louis scored the goal on Mother's Day. That has to be an honorable mention for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just this goal, Marty St. Louis the bottom line is what he stepped up in those playoffs. I mean, his mother passed away.
Not 2015, but yeah.
Wait, no. That was 2014. No, he died.
I'm saying no doubt about it. Stepped up.
You're right. But then, look, he was an older player. You're right. It was a different story, but 2014 he stepped up. I mean, your mother dying. Mm-hmm. I mean, just that would be so hard to focus on hockey after that stuff happened. Happened at a really bad time during the playoffs. Then he goes out and he just steps up, is scoring big goal after big goal. The Mother's Day goal, which was special. And this goal in overtime against the Canadiens to bring the Rangers within one game of reaching the Stanley Cup final. I mean, that was a insane moment. And Matthew, you know what I just realized? Sikorsky was in net. I didn't realize. I just remembered that Price got hurt. Price got hurt in that game one. Kreider ran him. Yeah, I mean that was great. I mean that series was, and you're right. I think another great moment was that Lundqvist save. Oh man, that was awesome. I mean that was, oh my god,
that's
probably one of the best saves of all time. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. And then you had I think Dominic Moore scored the only goal in that game, this clinching game of Game 6. To send the Rangers to the finals. I mean, that fourth line was great. Boyle, Dominic Moore, and I believe who was the other guy in that fourth? I can't remember his name, but I remember it was Moore, Boyle. That fourth line was great. They had an identity. That team really, they had it. They did, and that was also in 2015 and 2014. Those were the years to win it, and unfortunately, they came a little short. And yeah, I will say, and I'll always say that that final Stanley Cup final against the Kings, I know they lost in 5 games, but it was closer than 5 games. I believe 3 of those games that the Kings went to overtime, and the Rangers were up in a lot of those games, and unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done in overtime. A lot of those games
couldn't get done. Yeah, no. Ultimately, that was my favorite year of Rangers hockey, and I think you're right. The team had identity, and a lot of players served very specific roles. And it's like you had scorers, you had shot blockers like Dan Girardi, like notorious for shot blocking. You just had a lot of guys filled very specific roles, like Lee mentioned on the fourth line. So it doesn't get. And you try to compare it and be like, oh no, does this year's team have the same like the identity necessary to win a Stanley Cup? And it's TBD. You have to see how the team gels.
Yeah.
Really gritty overtime wins or comeback wins, which I mean the Rangers have been leading a lot this season. We haven't really seen that. Hopefully, the team has what it takes this year. I think so. I think we both came up with great lists. I like your honorable mention as well. That was one that kind of slipped my mind, but it was a great moment from not just a Ranger fan perspective, but like an overall human and hockey fan perspective for somebody that is a good guy, and he's the current coach of the Canadiens. The team he scored that goal against. But I think we made great lists, a lot of good moments, a lot of memorable moments, and let's do our spread picks for our first segment. And John, why don't you start? Actually, let me start with my favorite.
You start, Matthew. You deserve to start.
My favorite segment in the show.
It's like in golf when you have honors. You have honors here, Matthew. You're up by 20 points.
Specifically, my favorite aspect of the show might be recapping last week, because every week for me seems to be going as planned.
Great.
2 for 3, 6 for 6 on points last week. John goes 0 for 6. He was picking against me for most of the picks to try to gain ground. Didn't really work. The new scoreboard is 36.5 to 56. So John really has to start making up ground. It still has some time, a couple weeks. And in the playoffs, we'll be picking every game. So he'll have the opportunity to go head-to-head against me because we'll be picking the same games. So my first pick, let's get the music going. I'm waiting on the music.
Let me get the music.
I'll start with my 1-point pick. It's going to be Houston. There we go. Houston versus the Jets. And in my mind, the Jets are just a free way to earn a point in spread picks.
No, really?
Spread. They never cover the money line recently, and there's no reason to suggest that this is going to change this week. Zach Wilson coming back, totally disinterested at QB? No, doesn't do it for me. Tim Boyle QB? Doesn't really do it for me. Trevor Siemian at QB? After last week, doesn't really do anything for me. So Texans here, they're a good team. Jets, offense is specifically a bad team. Texans minus.
Yeah, Matthew, it's a great pick. For my 3-pointer, 1-pointer, I'm not going to write the 3-pointer first. Yeah. By the way, disclaimer before I make my picks: do not follow my advice. If you're a bettor, just don't. Okay, just do yourself a favor, save yourself a couple bucks. All right, so for my 1-point pick, I'm going to, I'm pulling up the schedule here. Where is this game? I can't find it now. Steelers. I have the Steelers -6, but I don't know who they're playing. That's just a testament to my struggles this year. They're playing the New England Patriots. They stink. It's in Pittsburgh. The line is 6. I think this is honestly too low. As like the Jets, Matthew, the Patriots, they don't have a quarterback as well. Mac Jones not doing it. Bailey Zappi not doing it. And I'll go through the Patriots. Their last couple games here on offense have been really bad. 0 points, 7 points, 6 points, 17. I mean, it's really been bad. They've gone 3 straight games allowing 10 points or less, and they've lost all 3 of them. They are a putrid team. And then against a Steelers team that's still in a playoff race at 7-5. I know Kenny Pickett's out for this game, so maybe that's why the spread is a little closer than it may seem. But I'm still taking Pittsburgh to cover the 6 points at home.
I think it's a good pick. Patriots, really inconsistent team, and nothing proves to me that they're going to win this game outright or cover. Now, my second pick, I have Jacksonville at Cleveland. Jacksonville -3. It's at Cleveland. But when I look at the Cleveland Browns this year and I see that they're 7-5, that really stands out to me as a record that it's kind of a record that doesn't really match the caliber of team that they are. Deshaun Watson out there on Joe Flacco, and we talked about Joe Flacco had a solid game, okay game for the Browns, but ultimately, I don't believe in this Browns team, and I think Jacksonville. I still think Jacksonville is a really explosive offense, still underrated, really underrated. I think people are underrating them. I think they've won some tough games this year. I know they've also gotten blown out a couple games, which has kind of pushed them down. But they have pieces across the board. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, a really good quarterback. Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, tight end. Really good skill position players. So I have Jacksonville here.
Matthew, I cannot believe you picked against a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco. How do you pick against him?
Joe
and that's
Flacco,
why I am picking
the
Cleveland Browns in this one. I have to. Wait, I'm on ESPN right now, and there's no spread. Oh, you know why? The Jacksonville's playing tonight, so they influence. But we're going to go by where we made it, and I made it at Cleveland +3. That might change. Probably not in my favor. It's probably going to be like Cleveland +6 by the time this game starts, so I'm probably going to lose some points there, but whatever. It is what it is. I made the pick. I got to own it. So Cleveland +3. Look, they're at home here. That's why and they have Joe Flacco. I mean, he provided a spark, I think, in offensively. They lost to the Rams, a close one. But look, the Browns, great. Look, this is why they're going to be in every game. Great defensive team, like the Jets. Great defense, one of the best in the league. And they're going to be in every game. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, I know he's been pretty solid. He's improved, but he's still not shown that he's that generational guy. I think he has 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions on the year. So it's really not been a tremendous year for Trevor Lawrence. It's not been like a Joe Burrow year. It's not been like a Patrick Mahomes year. So they're not going to score 40 points against this Browns. They're not going to score a lot against the Browns defense. It's going to be close, and the Browns are going to cover 3 points at home.
Yeah, one thing I will say is Joe Flacco was one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up, by the way.
Wow, really?
I did. I love Joe Flacco. That Super Bowl was one of the first Super Bowls I really watched and paid attention to. And because I'm not like a bandwagon fan, I really like the way Joe Flacco played. Second favorite quarterback behind Eli Manning. So just had to throw it back there.
Wow.
That's why I'm always defending Flacco, by the way. Flacco was good on the Jets. Flacco was good against the Browns. Never mind. My 3-point pick is Lions-Bears. Lions are only favored by 3, and it's a spread. I sometimes just got to trust your instinct, and it's a spread that was like, huh? And the Bears, you could look at it's hard to find much with the Bears because you'd be like, oh, they have DJ Moore. Amon-Ra St. Brown has more receiving yards. So their best, that's their biggest, that's their bright spot this year, and they're overshadowed by the Lions. And the Lions, ultimately, you can discuss the validity of how good their defense is. But if this is going to be a shootout, the Lions just can go to so many more. 2 good running backs, a great rookie tight end, good wide receivers. So I definitely have the Lions here.
I mean, I don't get this line at all. I mean, I get the Lions have been a lot of close games. Matthew, you played in all Vegas. This line does not make any sense to me. I understand they're on the road, but the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields. I mean, look, he looked, I guess, good against the Vikings. They still only scored 12 points, and they were basically asking for the Vikings to win that game. They did everything in their measure to give away that game, but they still won it, I guess. I don't get it. I don't get how they're only 3-point underdogs in this game. I really don't get it. But I'll move on to my 3-point pick because I'm going to need this because Matthew's going to get his 3-pointer with the Lions there. That's a guarantee, in my opinion. That's not me hoping for a jinx, by the way. 3-point pick. Let's see. No, I made my pick already. It's the Bills. It's the Bills versus the Chiefs game. Chiefs. That was a great game last night, by the way. Chiefs, Packers, at Lambeau. That was a classic. came down to the wire. A couple missed calls, I guess, but came down to the wire. But Chiefs are. This is why I'm picking the Chiefs. It's their get right game. I know they're still 8-4, but they came off a pretty bad loss against the Packers. Close game. They're at home here. The Chiefs coming off a loss, just guarantee it. They're going to win this game at Arrowhead against the Bills team who's been struggling. Josh Allen, he's looked better of late. But I just think the Chiefs are, when they lose, they get angry, and I understand their offensive weapons are a little lacking, but Patrick Mahomes is going to show up here at home, and they're going to cover the 2.5 at home.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about this game is I think it's the get-right game for the Chiefs, who lost kind of a tough game against the Packers, but it's also the get-right game for the Bills. Losing a game against the Eagles, obviously coming off the bye, a lot of time to prepare for this game. So, being 6-6, this is must-win to get into the playoffs, basically. It's not must-win, but then you got to face the Cowboys the week after. That's a tough, then you're going to be 6-8. But I think this is a really important game for the Bills, so I would expect, the Chiefs are going to play hard because it's, kind of a get-right game for them, but it's also a really important game for the Bills. So this is a game that I'm watching, Sunday, 4:25. Obviously not like the game of the week, Monday football, Sunday football, Thursday football. But this is the biggest game on the schedule for me. I think this is going to be a really good game. Both teams are going to play really hard.
Yep. I'll put the picks on the screen, Matthew. Yours and mine. Don't follow this advice.
We can put both up at the same time. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. And one that gets more highlighted is the one that you have to, take his advice. To leave mine in the shadows. Don't take my advice. I just take Matthew's.
But it's still off the screen now. There we go.
All right. I mean, Matthew, great podcast. I really enjoyed that list. And if you guys, we really enjoyed the list, the drafts. If you guys have any recommendations, leave them out in the comments because we would really appreciate some ideas that we really enjoy doing those.
Yeah.
Matthew, that's it. I think we covered everything.
Mm-hmm.
We have we can't even do game previews anymore because the season's both over for the Jets and Giants. I wish we were at that point. December football, I would love to, talk about some playoffs, but unfortunately that's not the case. Next episode, maybe we'll talk about a Juan Soto trade to the Yankees, Matthew. Hopefully that some moves going on for the Yankees. Yeah. It's looking promising, so hopefully that happens.
We'll have a lot. We'll have we're back to the Knicks Rangers weekly discussion. Jets Giants recaps. Obviously, the NFL playoffs. Even though the Jets and Giants aren't in it, we'll still be interested. Playoffs for the NFL are the best, in my opinion.
Matthew, what's more entertaining than the Jets collapsing week after week? What's more entertaining? What's more entertaining than that?
I mean, the benefit of that is we'll have good mock drafts in the spring.
Yeah. You know what? I would start a weekly segment of mock drafts.
Weekly segment? Oh my!
Weekly?
Goodness.
Why not?
Change the Jets week, really? I don't know about that.
I don't know. We could do maybe the last couple of weeks of the season. We could start doing those. That's fun. I think that's fun.
But there's still a lot to look out for. Obviously, I really did enjoy that, and I think we should do more lists in the future. I think they're fun. So, obviously, give us suggestions because I think it's been popular among the fan base too. People like the list.
Yep, Matthew, great episode as always, and we'll see you guys in the next one.